You ever notice how companies just love to throw around that word loyalty? Loyalty this, brand loyalty that. But what about just like loyalty to the people you actually work with, day in and day out?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today. Yeah. That power of like personal loyalty and how it can be, honestly, a game changer for your career.
It's funny you say that because it really is such a fascinating dynamic because companies often, they benefit most from a certain type of loyalty, the kind that's a bit more, I don't know, transactional almost.
Totally. It's like they want us to be these like perfectly interchangeable parts, just ready to slot into any project or any team at a moment's notice and no like, messy personal connections to hold us back.
Right.
But here's the thing, right? Those connections, the bonds that we build with our colleagues, they're not just good for like, after work hangouts or whatever. They can be like a secret weapon, honestly.
Absolutely.
For navigating the ups and downs of, just like your career in general.
Absolutely. And this is where we really see, the distinction between genuine loyalty,
right,
like, which is built on, shared experiences and trust. And then there's this idea of corporate loyalty,
right,
which can often feel, a little impersonal, a little
transactional, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
So that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I think it goes even deeper than that, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's about who knows your value, who's willing to like vouch for you, who's got your back when it really counts.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And those kinds of relationships, they don't just appear overnight. They take time. They take effort to build.
Speaking of, there was this one story from the research we were doing for this that really stuck with me. It was about this team that survived, get this, 3 reorganizations in just 2 years.
Wow.
Talk about a roller coaster, right? And you think that kind of constant, like, upheaval would just completely decimate any kind of team cohesion. But this team, they came out of it even stronger. And, we were trying to figure out why.
Right.
Why? Because they had each other's backs. They had cultivated this really deep, deep well of loyalty and trust just over time, constantly advocating for one another's skills, for each other's value to the company.
It really speaks volumes about the power of like a united front,
Right.
They understood that by sticking together and actually leveraging that collective strength they had as a team, they could navigate these potentially really disruptive changes much more effectively.
And it worked. Like every time that restructuring loomed, they presented this united front, advocated for their shared strengths, and higher-ups, they listened.
Wow.
They were a force to be reckoned with because of that trust and loyalty they had built.
Yeah, that kind of genuine connection, it's so powerful, right? Think about it. Having a network of colleagues who are genuinely invested in your success,
right,
that's an incredible asset.
It's like having your own personal board of directors inside the company.
Yeah.
Like a group of people who understand your worth and they're ready to champion you no matter what.
Exactly. And they can offer support, guidance. They could even open doors to new opportunities that you might not even know existed.
Right, which is huge. And those are the kind of connections that companies can't just, manufacture with a team building exercise or a,
right, exactly,
company picnic,
You can't force it, yeah.
It comes from a place of like genuine respect and shared experience.
And that's what makes them so valuable, Yeah. It's about building relationships that transcend just the day-to-day grind. Relationships that are built on a foundation of mutual trust, mutual respect.
Okay, but here's the million-dollar question then, right? If having these strong personal connections is so beneficial, why don't companies encourage it more?
Right.
In fact, sometimes it feels like they almost like discourage it.
Well, it's not always intentional, but there's no denying that. From a company's perspective, strong internal bonds, they can sometimes be perceived as, a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Double-edged sword, huh?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, think about it from the company's point of view for a second. Companies, they thrive on adaptability, right?
Right.
Being able to pivot quickly, shift resources around, restructure teams to, meet those new objectives.
Yeah.
That's essential in today's business world, right?
They love agility.
Exactly. But while these strong, loyal teams that we're talking about are incredible assets in so many ways, there is a chance, there's a possibility that they might be a little, less receptive to those really rapid changes, especially if it looks like those changes are going to disrupt their team dynamic or, seem counterproductive to what they're trying to achieve.
It's not even like being opposed to change itself. It's more about like they might question it a little bit more if it doesn't seem like it's in the best interest of the team that they feel fiercely loyal to.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about like resisting change for the sake of it.
Right.
But it's more about advocating for what they believe is best for the team, even if it means pushing back a little bit against the company's maybe perceived wisdom,
Right, which can be tough.
Oh, absolutely.
To be the one to well, actually,
yeah, exactly.
We see it a little differently down here.
It's that fine line.
Yeah.
And that's where things can get a little, a little delicate. Companies value that adaptability, like we were saying, that go with the flow, but genuine loyalty, sometimes it might lead to questioning decisions a little bit more, especially, if those decisions impact like a really tight-knit, loyal team.
So then how do we find that balance? Like, how can our listeners cultivate these like really powerful bonds of loyalty with their colleagues, but not be seen as, obstacles to the company's goals?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the good news is that, the research we were looking at, it offers some really practical advice on this.
Oh, good.
So one of the most straightforward but honestly powerful approaches is shockingly simple.
Okay.
Invest time in actually genuinely getting to know your colleagues.
Okay.
And I don't just mean like, the casual water cooler talk.
Right.
I mean, really understanding them. What are their aspirations? What makes them tick? What are their goals, both professionally and personally?
Right. Like actually genuinely getting to know them as people.
Exactly. And when you take that genuine interest in your colleagues as people, it creates this, it lays the groundwork for trust and mutual respect.
Right.
Which are the cornerstones of that genuine loyalty we keep talking about.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? Like you can't just have one without the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that actually ties into another really important point. It's not just about like saying you have somebody's back. It's about like actually showing up for them.
Yes.
Consistently.
Absolutely. Offering support, volunteering for projects, even if they're not, the most glamorous projects, but they're important to the team. Being that reliable presence that people know they can count on.
Right.
These are all ways to demonstrate that commitment to your colleagues.
It's about being, like you said, a good teammate.
Exactly.
Not just like an employee checking off their,
Right. You're not just clocking in and clocking out.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And the best part is it creates this ripple effect,
Yeah.
When you're consistently showing up for your colleagues, they're much more likely to reciprocate. And it creates this culture of support and, mutual respect.
It becomes it's like a cycle almost.
Precisely. And that kind of environment where everyone feels, valued and supported, it's not just good for morale. It does wonders for productivity, for innovation.
Yeah, right. Which ultimately benefits the company anyway.
Exactly.
It's about like aligning your personal loyalty with, the company's success.
Yeah.
Finding that sweet spot where everybody kind of wins.
Absolutely.
Now, there was one more strategy for building like this kind of beneficial loyalty that I thought was super interesting.
Okay.
And it involves kind of like a perspective shift.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
It's all about aligning yourself with your manager's success.
Okay.
So not just focusing on your own individual tasks or your own little goals, right?
Right.
It's more about taking the time to understand what are your manager's priorities?
Okay.
What's their vision for the team? And then figuring out how can my skills, how can my contributions help them achieve their goals?
I like that.
Right.
It's recognizing that their success is your success in a way.
Exactly.
And finding those ways to contribute to that.
Yes. It's about being that invaluable team member who's not just, checking things off the to-do list.
Yeah.
But who's actually contributing to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And what I love about this approach is that it allows you to build this like really strong, loyal relationship with your manager that's based on, mutual respect and a shared vision for success.
Right. Because when you have that kind of foundation, it makes it so much easier to navigate those, inevitable moments where company loyalty might clash with your personal loyalties.
Oh, there it is. The elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens when, the company wants one thing.
Right.
But your loyalty to a person or to your team is like pulling you in a different direction.
Exactly.
That's where things can get really, really tricky, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're walking this tightrope.
For sure.
You don't want to compromise your values or it's like betray the trust that you've built with your colleagues, right?
Right.
But then on the other hand, you have to be mindful of your own, career and your well-being.
Absolutely. You have to look out for yourself, too.
Right.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure. And honestly, there's no, one-size-fits-all answer. The best approach really depends on the specifics of the situation.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah.
But the research we looked at, it did have some good advice for kind of thinking through these situations.
Okay. What did it say?
So it really boils down to a few, core principles.
Okay.
First and foremost, honest self-reflection, I think, is crucial.
Yeah.
Really take the time to, step back from the situation for a second and just, really assess what's going on,
right.
What's at stake here, what are the real consequences if I stay loyal to this person or this team versus, siding with the company.
Right. You got to weigh those options.
Yeah, and understand, okay, what are the risks here? And what are the potential rewards?
Exactly.
Of both paths, really.
Yeah.
And that's where I think open and honest communication comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're feeling torn, actually try having a conversation with the people that you're loyal to. Just say, hey, here's what's going on. Here are my concerns.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Exactly.
Just being open about it.
Yeah. And, sometimes you might even find that they're we get it.
Yeah.
We totally see where you're coming from. Here's how we can navigate this together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to abandon your loyalty.
Right.
It's more about, like you said, just being honest about it.
Yeah.
And then finding a way forward that works for everybody.
That respects everyone, right?
Yeah.
And look, sometimes it might mean having to make, a tough choice.
Right.
If your loyalty to a particular group or person is constantly putting you at odds with the company.
Right.
Or you start to feel like it's actually hindering your professional growth.
Yeah.
It might be time to right. reevaluate where your priorities are at.
You might have to reprioritize. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes. It might mean having to create a little bit of distance between yourself and a certain group.
Even if you still value those relationships.
Yeah, it's not personal. It's just
Yeah.
for the sake of your own, sanity, almost.
Absolutely. And that's where, having that diverse network, like we were talking about before, of colleagues, of mentors.
Right.
That can be so valuable.
They can help you through it.
Exactly. They can offer different perspectives, help you see the bigger picture, That
you might not be able to see when you're in the thick of it.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to, our main message today. Cultivating those strong, genuine relationships with your colleagues.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's not just about having people to, chat with at the water cooler.
Right. It's deeper than that.
It's about building those real connections based on trust, respect, shared commitment to success,
Yeah. And those relationships, those bonds of loyalty, they can be, honestly, your secret weapon, your support system, just your guiding light through all the craziness of, your career.
That's a good way to put it.
So if you take away just one thing from this whole conversation today, let it be this.
Okay.
Invest in the relationships that you have at work.
Yeah.
Get to know your colleagues.
Yeah.
Show up for them. Support their success. You'll be amazed at how those little, seemingly insignificant actions, they create this, ripple effect.
Absolutely.
That fosters a culture of loyalty and camaraderie that benefits everybody.
100%.
And, who knows? Those really strong bonds that you build today might be the things that help you get through whatever challenges come up tomorrow.
Or the things that help you seize those opportunities.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it really is about those human connections, those relationships built on trust and mutual respect.
So well said.
They make all the difference.
That's it for this deep dive into personal loyalty. We'll catch you next time as we explore something else that's really important in the workplace. Until then, remember, invest in your people, build each other up, and just see how, just genuine human connection, it can really transform not just your career, but honestly, your whole life.
Well said.
Thanks for listening, everybody.